Welcome, race fans, to Pump the Brakes, the one, the only, the Cadillac of Formula One podcast. I am your host, the Pitlane Patriot, and this is episode 2. We are still in preseason at the time of this recording, so we are going to talk about the new regulations. We're going to talk about some Cadillac expectations, and then we're going to get into some testing and some more testing.
Yep, P1.
All right, so before we talk about Silverstone, before we talk about Barcelona, before we talk about Bahrain, lap times, or headlines, we have to talk about 2026 regulations. Because nothing you're about to hear makes any sense unless you understand the reset that's coming. Because Formula One isn't just entering a new season, it's entering a new era. And Cadillac is entering Formula One at the moment the board gets wiped clean. So a lot of people hear new regulations and they think like small tweaks. That's not what this is. 2026 is one of the biggest resets in Formula One history. It's not about optimization, really. It's about relearning. Everyone's rebuilding. It's not just the new teams. And this is music to the ears of a Cadillac fan. So what even are regulations? What's changing? What the heck is this? A regulation is basically just the rules or the formula by which all the cars are made. Every team has to follow a specific set of rules and make the cars themselves. So every couple of years, the FIA, the governing body of the Formula One organization, they do this thing where they just change up the rules. And they do it for a number of reasons. Sometimes you'll have a crash or a serious safety concern, and the FIA will step in and say, okay, we need to make a change because this is not safe. Sometimes you'll have a change to become more eco-friendly or eco-conscious, you know? One of the things that Formula One and any sort of motorsport gets under fire for is not being eco-friendly. Formula One actually makes a lot of steps towards becoming eco-friendly. For example, back in 2014, the last time that we know Formula One had a huge regulation change like this, Formula One went from a pure combustion engine to a hybrid engine. They introduced adding electrical power on the track. And sometimes Formula One just wants to make the sport more fun again. Because, to be honest, once you've got the perfect driver, the perfect car, under the perfect rule set, you're pretty much going to win every race all season. And that's not very fun. And if it's not very fun, it's not very marketable. So Formula One is going to make sure that fans are entertained. So that's definitely a huge reason why they switch things up. By switching things up, the teams have to make brand new cars, which gives every team an opportunity to reset and start at the bottom. That's why this is so huge for Cadillac. We're entering new regulations. We're not the only ones building a brand new car. So there's 3 pillars to this regulation set. First, the power units are being reinvented. What does that mean? Well, the engines, they're changing fundamentally. More electrical power, different energy deployment. This means that it's a complete rethink of how a car delivers performance over the lap. The electrical side of the car back in 2014 was about 20% of the total power delivered from the car. Now, we're going pretty much 50-50 on electric and combustion power inside the car. This is going to add a host of new driving styles. There's going to be softwares that get integrated into the cars, brand new things for the drivers to have to think about. The game isn't about horsepower anymore. It's now about control. Okay, pillar 2. The aerodynamic philosophy is shifting. So the cars are being simplified aerodynamically. What does that mean? Well, first, the ground effect is basically being removed. So what's ground effect? Ground effect is basically the underside of the car is shaped like a tunnel that can suck air in and provide grip to the cars. And pretty much every single car has run away with this idea and gotten very extreme with this. So Formula One decided we're going to do away with this and make a much more flatter bottom to the cars, do away with ground effect. Not do away with it, but simplify it. Make things more strategy-based as opposed to like extreme downforce grip. Okay, and last, the energy management system is becoming way more central and important. How and when a car uses energy is going to matter just as much as how fast the car is naturally. Deployment timing, harvesting efficiency, strategic flexibility, The fastest car on paper won't always be the fastest car over a race. It's going to depend on a lot of different factors. We have a lot of drivers who have even mentioned so far that doing this is going to be really, really difficult. Charles Leclerc, he's very concerned about having to add this entire new rule set into the mind of a driver going 200 miles an hour. You even have drivers like Lando Norris, our current champion. He's working with Formula E drivers to try to learn better how to manage his car in terms of energy, because these guys have been doing it. So this is kind of a really, really big deal, and it's also huge because Formula One becomes more appealing to fans who were originally like, no, like it's really, really bad for the environment. Like Formula One's actually leading the charge towards becoming more environmentally friendly. So now, Cadillac. Okay, so why does this matter for us Cadillac fans? Cadillac's timing here is huge because they are entering a time where they come in on as even ground as possible. It's not even, but it's as even as possible. At least they're not bolting themselves onto a mature rule set, you know? They're building into a reset. So there's no legacy concepts to unlearn. This is probably one of their biggest advantages. Every single other team on the grid has to unlearn things. They have been doing things a particular way for a very long time. And when resets like this happen, they have to now adjust and unlearn before they can learn. So at least we're starting from scratch, right? So when you're watching Cadillac this season, the question isn't going to be, are they fast? Here's what's really, really important when you're watching Cadillac. What you need to be watching for is how they manage in this rule set. Is the reliability improving? Is consistency increasing? How's the team doing on the pit wall? Is the team strategizing correctly? How's the tire strategies? Like, are they optimizing? Are they finishing the races, you know? Every little thing matters along this road. We are all building from the beginning, and it's going to be a fun ride. I mean, but we will have a lot of adjustment to be made. And when I say a lot of adjustments, I mean a lot. So we all want to have a really fun season, and you absolutely can, even though our team isn't going to perform or isn't expected to perform as well as it will in the future, as long as we manage our expectations. So what should we be looking for? How do we define a win season over season versus race over race? Season over season, it's progress. Race over race, it's the little minute details. You want to be able to see things like Cadillac made it past Q1. There's 3 quarters of qualifying. Cadillac made it beyond the first one. Most backmarker teams are out within Q1. Cadillac makes it into Q2, maybe even Q3. That's huge for us. Cadillac does better than another team, period. Cadillac doing better than any other team on the grid is a win on any given Sunday because Cadillac has the least data in a data-driven sport. So we are exceeding expectation when we perform better or do better than any other team. So yeah, that means any result that isn't a DNF or a P21 and 22 is a win. So we gotta really form our mindset here before we start talking about testing. Because we're gonna get into testing in just a moment, but let's make sure we have the right mindset going into it.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Cadillac didn't actually start out testing the traditional way. Formula One itself didn't even, but Cadillac took it an even step further by doing their own personal shakedown surprise in January 2026 at the famous circuit, Silverstone. In our last episode, we discussed the journey that Cadillac has taken from the original Andretti bid in 2022 to where we are today, a full-on works team in Formula One. In 2026, Cadillac started off pretty surprisingly. There was a Silverstone shakedown. Because you're new to Formula One or new to this whole Cadillac story, you might have seen the phrase Silverstone shakedown and thought, okay, what does that even mean? Well, a shakedown is not a race. It's not even a test session. It's basically the first time a brand new car is allowed to stretch its legs on a track. Think of it like this. If you just built like a high performance machine from scratch, you don't take it straight into qualifying, you roll it out, make sure it runs, make sure the tweaks are worked out. That was what Silverstone was. Cadillac decided randomly in the middle of January to roll out its car in all black because they didn't want to reveal their livery. They revealed the car in all black and just took it out onto the track in Silverstone and filmed it. It was great. And that's pretty significant because it's a historic Formula One circuit in the UK, and it's also logistically convenient for a lot of teams, including Cadillac. So many F1 operations are based in Britain. So when a new program rolls out a car there, it's pretty practical, but it's also symbolic. So this wasn't about lap time. It was probably about Cadillac being like, okay, we actually have a car. You'll notice that nobody posted Cadillac fastest in Sector 2. You don't expect to hear that for a little while. Point of a shakedown is data. It's sensors, it's system checks. It makes sure the engine and the chassis and the electronics are working. And that really matters. Silverstone was the first moment where this project went from theory to reality. We got a car, it works, it's on track. Let's take a look at what happened in Barcelona, because this is where things start to feel more real. Not because of fireworks, but because the teams actually got useful running time in with their new cars. And this is super important, especially this year. First of all, why Barcelona? We haven't done this before. I've never heard of this. Why are we doing this? Well, like I said, Formula One is entering a new era. Brand new cars with brand new regulations, brand new engines. Cadillac's not the only one who's got to adjust, which is great for us. So the FIA and Formula One and the teams decided, because of such a rapid change, we're going to add another test. A test before the test, a private test, where we can see if our car is going to blow up on the track without media attention. So that's what they did. Silverstone was the first time that the Cadillac car existed. Barcelona is where teams actually got to run their cars properly. So this test in Spain was a private 5-day shakedown at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. And every team with a new car was allowed to use 3 out of those 5 days to gather data. 5-day week, 3 out of 5 you get to gather data. So this was the first time that all the new cars and new engines had been put on the track, behind closed doors, out of public eye. So let's break it down. So the priority here wasn't who set the fastest lap. It was, can the entire package survive actual circuit conditions? So a lot of teams were able to figure that out. In day 2, you saw drivers continue to work on, through tire sets, balancing issues, setup changes. We had our first crash. Isaac Hadjar actually crashed on day 2. Because teams are limited to only 3 out of the 5 days each, every track hour needs to count. So you don't pull out all the performance stuff right on day 1. And you don't perform on all 5 days because you're not allowed to. By the end of the session, on day 3, we've got an unofficial timing sheet that shows Ferrari and Mercedes at the top of the game. Okay, what does this mean? Ferrari and Mercedes being at the top during a pre-test means absolutely nothing. If anything, it's a small shining light that we use a Ferrari engine, and Ferrari is up to par in what they should be doing. So it's a little bit of a shining light. I wouldn't take too much from that. The Mercedes thing has been on the radar for a while. For anyone that is brand new, Mercedes has been the hype train of these new regulations. Everyone has been saying that Mercedes is going to dominate these regulations. And by day 3 of this Barcelona shakedown, we had some evidence of that. But what actually did matter was reliability, consistency, and data. At least one larger team, Williams, actually didn't have a car ready in time and skipped the test entirely, choosing to run simulations instead. But besides Williams, pretty much everybody got their cars out and things were smooth sailing outside of a Hadjar crash. That's a reminder about how hard these regulations can changes can be for everybody. So another team, Aston Martin, didn't complete their first full allotted days because their car wasn't ready until later in the week, which limited star Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll's time on the track immensely. The real story of the day with Aston Martin was people wanted to see the car's design because the car was designed by arguably the world's greatest race car designer, Adrian Newey. But we were all surprised and frustrated to find out that the final design wasn't even what was brought out in Barcelona. So that's sick. So what can we take away from the Barcelona testing as casual fans or new fans? Well, first, the fact that nearly the entire grid was able to run their cars in Spain without a catastrophe is actually a pretty big deal. It's the largest technical overhaul in F1 in probably 2 decades. New engines, aero, energy, and most of the cars survived a week of like legit testing. That's pretty reassuring overall for the season. Teams also focused on mileage and data and not pacing. So understand that this was not a measure of pacing at all. Teams are not rolling out their car to see if they can last for 72 laps. They're rolling them out to see if they can last for 1. Okay, now let's go into what we actually care about, which is Cadillac. Now, I said it once, I've said it twice, I'll say it a million times in the first season of this podcast. We must manage our expectations. We didn't get a ton of data on Cadillac's specific lap count or times from Barcelona because this was a private session. And midfield or abundant teams often keep their programs, quiet. But the fact that Cadillac's car tested, present, ran, and finished is huge. It's progress. It's equally as important, if not slightly more important, than that Silverstone shakedown in that this car was presented with the other cars. We already knew from Silverstone that Cadillac could get a car onto the track in a real environment. Barcelona more confirmed that it could run hard mileage over multiple days, which is foundational for any team that actually wants to compete later in the year. Now, was the Barcelona shakedown perfect for us? No. We had some issues. Valtteri and Checo both reported that there were issues with the car, and they weren't worried when they said it. They were like, yeah, of course there's issues with the car. It's a brand new team. We're working this out, and we're doing it now. And this is where our optimism stays grounded. Cadillac put in time, granted the least amount of time out of all the teams, but we put in time. We put in time on the track. We didn't waste resources. We knew that our car was still sort of like a baby, and we weren't going to put it out for hundreds of miles and blow it up and before even testing began. It's not even testing, bro. That alone is awesome. We're not evaluating wins or losses here. We're appreciating that the car actually completed a real multi-day test with the rest of the teams on the grid. So that's a good start.